Welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. I'm so glad you guys came this evening. We are rocking and rolling another very cool Friday night because Friday nights are cool at 7 p.m. I guess I'm an old man now. So yes, 7 p.m. is now Friday night for me. When I was a kid, it wasn't, but it is now. And we're doing the cool Sharpe Way Stew. It is not Sharpe Way Soup, but it is Sharpe Way Stew because stew is meatier. Yes, it is. And there is more meat on this bone. And I am very happy that I have with me today someone who I met years ago now. He actually was emceeing things, and he was trying to be funny, and he's sometimes funny here or there. He is. It does happen. He is sometimes funny. Usually by mistake, but he is sometimes funny. The man himself, the man who is himself Lou Perez, the Lou Perez, by the way, also a member of WeTheInternet.tv. Lou Perez, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me, Larry. And I have to say, while sometimes I am funny, it was great being able to MC your events. And I actually described you as you were the first candidate who ever earned my vote.
Ooh, yeah. I like
you really,
that.
when
That's
you ran
awesome.
for governor. Yeah, you really you turned me on.
I like
in
that.
In a political way. So
I don't mind anyway. We're libertarian. Anyway, whatever floats your boat, brother. It doesn't matter. It's all good.
I appreciate that, man.
Whatever floats your boat. I'm very happy that's the case here. I'm really I try to earn people's vote. I wish more people would earn people's vote. That'd be amazing. So I'm gonna ask the audience to earn something too. This is free, so here's your price. Like, share, and comment. Get out there, share this stuff, audience. If you're watching, you like what you're seeing, you like what I'm doing, I got you. You got to have me too. Like this, comment, and share so that people start watching it, so that people start popping up and going, hey, I want to watch this cool stuff too, right? That's what we want us to do if we possibly can. And again, this is Sharpe Way Stew, which means we're going to be talking about different clips and talking about those clips. And the one clip I want to start with, if I can, this is one from you, Lou, and you have a bunch of clips. We on the internet has a lot of stuff, and I want to bring this one up if I can, so that we can talk about it real fast. This is one about you and your you having a baby. This is actually funny. Hold on.
Yeah, my wife's pregnant. We're expecting at the end of March, actually, which is, yeah. I'm not ready. I'm not ready, man, for that. But everyone always asks me. They're like, "Oh, Lou, do you want a boy, or do you want a girl? Which one are you hoping for?" And all I say is like, look, all I care about is that they're healthy.
Makes sense.
And no matter what they are, I'm gonna raise them as a boy. You could do that now. Did you guys know that? Gender is a social construct. I'm gonna socially construct the shit out of that boy.
Now that must have been tough for you to say, right? Didn't people get angry at you?
No. I had a really fun crowd. That actually was I did a 3-stop little tour promoting a documentary called 5 Reasons Why We Need Sweden's Democratic Socialism. And so I got to play in New York, Dallas, and Phoenix. And I always opened up every show with a set. And I kept forgetting to do that joke. Until finally I was like, you know what? Let me just do it. Let's see how Phoenix reacts to it. And they liked it. They were cool with it. I think it's really important when you find people who actually can tell the difference between a joke and a political statement.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That's really helpful, especially if you're a comedian and in front of a crowd. So thankfully they dug the joke.
So I guess some people are getting asking if I'm getting tired of these interviews. No, Joe, this is my job, brother. Do you get tired of your job? I hope not. Unless you got laid off, in which case you're probably tired of your job. But that's okay. So I appreciate that. So no, but this kind of joke, right? Don't you get concerned as a comedian that sometimes this kind of joke becomes too much?
Well, I think with anything, when you're doing comedy, there are obviously different, gradients of jokes, different hierarchies of jokes. There are jokes that, you can do you can do in front of kids and families and like that. And then there's stuff that gets a little edgier, if you want to use that word. But I think ultimately, you have to believe in what you're doing. if it's something that you think is funny, you should be pushing it, and then also trying to play to the top of your intelligence, and also treat the crowd like they're at the top of their intelligence too. You know,
well,
I think that's really important.
You do. Yeah, you do a type of. There's a lot of people who are kind of libertarian-like comedians. There's a lot of them, right? Most of them are only able to get to a point where they can be semi-funny, kind of funny, and that's about it. They don't really get to do much else. You've done two things which I think are very good. One of them is you've been able to kind of be serious here or there, which is awesome. Right? Have some serious stuff while still being funny. A lot of comedians struggle to that. But more importantly, you've moved to an area where you can actually be the MC, and a lot of comedians can't. So you've been able to turn yourself to say, no, right now I'm the funny guy. Oh, and right now I'm the kind of serious guy. And right now I'm the guy who's facilitating this stuff. This has got to be a challenge for you. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing comedy for almost 20 years. I started doing
the reason why.
Yeah,
Okay.
I started doing it in college.
That's it.
And the thing is, I started doing comedy before I became, a libertarian, before the libertarian werewolf bit me, and and tainted my blood and all that. So for me, it's always been comedy first. And then when I started doing stuff with We the Internet, it was really the first time that I was bringing together, here's like some like political point of views that I have, and here's my comedy, and bring it and putting the two together. So I never looked at it as, I think some people, we see it with comedians who, have been in the game a long time, where, they were young and funny and doing really great stuff. And then they get to a point where it's like, they think that they need to be more important.
Yes.
They need to serve a higher purpose than something that I think is really noble, which is entertaining people. For one, it's really tough. As you pointed out in the beginning, sometimes I'm funny, so sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I bomb and all that. So that's already a difficult thing. Yeah. And being able to bring joy to people, I think is already a noble venture.
This is funny you brought this up, right? Yeah. As I run and as I do these things, I try very hard to realize I've got to be entertaining also, right? I can't just be some professorial guy who's always talking trash. I've got to be able to entertain. And I tend to not be funny, but I tend to be amusing, right? That's kind of what I try to be. I'm not a comedian, so I'm not trying to get you to laugh out loud. That's not my goal. But my goal is for you to be amused. Like, oh, Larry, that was cute. Oh, that was nice, right? I'm trying to keep that ability that people will go, oh, this is amusing, so they feel good about the stuff I'm saying, even when what I'm saying isn't so good, that at least they feel amused when I say it.
Well, I think it's important. What's important too is that you're authentic. You get what you're doing is you're coming across as a genuine person, because you are a genuine person. I remember
I'm a really good liar,
or you're a fantastic liar. But I remember when we did, one of the campaign shows up at, I think it was Stand Up New York, all the way uptown. And it was a great show. Dave Smith headlined. Yep. And then you came on afterwards. So it was like, we had this really great comedy show. Chrissy Mayer was the host.
Yep.
Really fun comedy show. And then you came up and you reminded everyone why you were there and why you had brought everyone there. And it was just, I think it was really moving. And I think, not enough can be said about somebody who's able to connect with other people, whether it's being funny or whether it's just saying like, hey, here's my vision of the world, or this is how I see things. Let me share that with you. So I think that's really commendable.
That. Well, look, I want to bring about the video you've done. And that is the video you just talked about. What's it called again? The 5 reasons why we love Sweden or something?
5 reasons why we need Sweden's democratic socialism.
See, we all need Sweden's democratic socialism. It's obvious. Hasn't Bernie taught us this yet? So now you have expressed as why we should. Let me see if I can get that one up if I can real fast.
Sure.
Pop that one out.
Sweden, birthplace of pop stars ABBA, Ace of Base, and Greta Thunberg.
I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean.
Yes,
and the go-to vacation spot for American celebrities like A$AP Rocky and Lou Perez. But I'm kind of a star.
Okay. Did anybody beat you up, Lou?
No. There was no time for me to get beat up. So
Well, then why'd you go? I'm just saying, come on. That's funny. That guy got beat up, didn't he?
Yeah, well, I remember hearing about Sweden's quote unquote no-go zones. I remember hearing about that. Fortunately, I didn't have to go to any of those no-go zones. I basically sat down and talked with policy experts and people who working in in different sectors of the of Swedish economy and all that.
That's
so
not
it was
funny.
pretty safe. Yeah, I know, not funny at all.
Leslie likes Ace of Base, which is kind of cool. I like that. They were a cool band, right?
Sure.
I mean, they were, right? All right, so let's see why we need.
Okay, if anyone asks in Sweden about me, just tell them I'm really big in the States.
Speech. Too short to protest.
All I know about Sweden are IKEA, IKEA's meatballs, and of course, Sweden's super successful brand of democratic socialism, which may or may not be sold in IKEA.
It is.
If you've been listening to U.S. politicians like Bernie Sanders, Sweden seems to be doing everything right.
Everything
you identify
right.
as democratic socialists.
And my policies most closely resemble.
What do they resemble? Because she is actually my congressperson. I want you guys to understand her. You're watching right now. She is my congressperson right now. I live in Queens. Yes. So what did you think when you were there, man? Come on. When you were seeing this, what were you thinking?
Well, I was there for around 5 days, and we were approaching. I don't know if we were in like the dead of winter. I mean, it was October, so whatever the weather is like in Sweden at that time. So we had so little daylight in order to get our stuff done that really I didn't have that much time to explore every single facet of Stockholm itself. So a lot of it was just spent working and prepping and trying to get as much as we could in that short amount of time there. But if you want to play a little bit more,
okay,
yeah,
I'll do that. Yes, and by the way, I am trying to make you feel sorry for me. Yes, that's okay.
What we see in the UK, in Norway, in Finland, in Sweden.
And I think we should look to countries like Denmark, like Sweden, and Norway, and learn from what they have accomplished for their working people.
Okay, what lessons can Americans learn from Sweden's democratic socialism?
5 reasons, man. We need this.
I flew all the way from New York to Stockholm to learn all I can about this mythical Scandinavian land.
Okay, it's not that far away, Lou. It really isn't. I'm just saying.
Is Sweden socialist? No. Is
What? How can you say that?
There's a follow-up question now.
There's no way that's true. I've been yelled at by socialists for literally 10 years on how all these countries are socialists. There's no way this can't be true. This guy's lying, right?
Let's see. Let's see.
All right.
Sweden democratically socialist?
No, it's democratic, but not socialist.
See, you were blown away too.
What am I even
Right? Yeah. So we could probably stop it there. So
Yeah.
so this documentary could have been a minute and 32 seconds long.
There we go. Yes.
Basically, and I think I think it's really important to hold our politicians accountable when they talk about, economic systems, when they throw around words like, terms like democratic socialism. And it's like, do they even know what democratic socialism means?
Clearly they don't.
And, and something that I find, I know what socialism is. Socialism is the collective ownership of the means of production. Got that. Makes sense. If you want to find out what democratic socialism means, it's like a nice little, PR thing that they did there. There's a site, Democratic Socialists of America.
Yes,
The
DSA. Absolutely.
You can go and look it up. So apparently, the difference between socialism and democratic socialism is democratic socialism calls for the social ownership of the means of production. Which try to wrap your head around that.
I'm trying to figure that one out. Okay.
Yeah. So ultimately it's saying the same thing in much nicer language.
It does sound nice.
It does sound nice, right? Oh, democratic. I get to have a say in how the economy is run.
I get to have a say in how people take my stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I get to decide who takes my stuff. And then I guess where my stuff goes. I don't know. I'm not sure how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the best examples that that I always point to is there was a debate at the Soho Forum in New York between Gene Epstein and Bhaskar. I forget his last name, but he's the editor of Jacobin magazine.
Okay.
And Bhaskar he's a democratic socialist, open about it.
Sure.
And it was the first time that I ever, heard basically an honest discussion of what democratic socialism entails. And it entails a full overhaul of the economy.
Yes.
So that you get rid of the private ownership of the means of production. If you're a business owner, you now have to give up your business to the workers or whatever that means. And if you don't go along with this, well, then what happens? And Gene actually posed that question to him at one point in the debate. And of course, well, that's what jails are for.
Yeah. So that's what guys and gals with guns are all about. Of course.
Yeah. So just imagine that, as libertarians, I'm a small L libertarian. I want to roll back the powers of the state. I want to roll it back. I want to get rid of these nonsensical laws that are putting people in jail.
Yep.
And now you have somebody who's preaching for a complete change in the system that will jail you.
Yep.
If you dare to have a voluntary exchange of, you say, hey, if you want to work for me, I want to pay you this amount, this wage, and vice versa. It's really scary. And we don't really get that deep into democratic socialism proper here in the doc. But what we do show is that there are quite a few elements to the way Sweden does things that the United States can learn from.
Did you call it the doc?
What's that?
You said what we don't talk about in the doc.
Oh, in the doc. Sure. That's the cool kids' way of saying documentary.
I was going to say, you're now one of the cool kids. You get to use
that's right. I'm here for the stew, bro.
Okay. I like it. I like it. All right, I'm going a little bit further on. Should I go further? Is there more stuff here? Is there some meat here we should go?
It's a pretty long doc. So I would recommend, if anyone wants to watch it, please check it out on YouTube. 5 reasons why we need Sweden's democratic socialism.
There we go. We can talk about why we need that stuff. I love it. Then I will stop sharing the screen.
And it's one of those things too where the title brings so many people in because you're like,
yes,
cool. If you're coming from it from a perspective of anger, you're going to get something out of it. And then if you're coming from it thinking that your views are going to be buoyed, then you have that too.
Let me go on to another piece you did. You did a parody of The Irishman.
Yes.
Right, and you called it, I forgot what you called it, something about mobsters or something.
The Union Man.
The Union Man, thank you. Yes, the Union Man, it's correct. And it's all a parody of that. And I'm going to pull a chunk of that out now.
Cool.
Because I think that one is actually also pretty funny.
Thank you.
Should I say it isn't funny? It is funny, though. It is.
Evolution. But things only got worse.
What the hell happened to you? I had to talk to another one of our cabbies. Bastard's driving for Uber.
Oh.
You believe that shit?
Did you explain to him that the gig economy is interfering with our ability to collectively negotiate?
Yeah! The gig economy is interfering with our ability to collectively negotiate.
What the hell?
So he was a doctor again? So this was good for Peter, I guess, or Pietra. That was good. This is good for him?
Yeah, you always meet, every driver I've had, it was like a doctor or a nuclear scientist.
Of course.
Something like that. I've never met someone who, like, in their home country was just a cab driver. A cab driver over there came over here and drove a cab as well.
Absolutely. It's very funny, right? I mean, it's funny that when you look at when you look at the gig economy, it's opportunity, right? People are coming without question for opportunity. And as we begin to shut down the opportunity, they're going to go home, right? Now, we may laugh at this. It's a joke, right? But he was a doctor again. What if we'd allowed this guy to work his way up here to become a doctor here?
Mm-hmm.
We could probably use him here about right now, couldn't we?
Oh, sure. And
Right?
you know what? I remember some years back I lived in Los Angeles for about 4 years, and at that time that's when Uber and Lyft started.
Yep.
And I would hit up open mics quite often, and so many of the comedians there, up and coming comedians, grinding and all that, they were driving for Uber.
Yep.
And you thought about, well, it was the perfect gig for them because the main thing is you could make your own hours.
Yes, absolutely.
Whether if you get out of a mic at midnight, you turn on the app, you can pick people up, you can drive them around. If you feel like, hey, I have 2 hours to spare, let me go drive some people around. And it's try saying that to somebody who owns a brick and mortar store. Try saying that to a manager. It's like, hey, you know what? I want to work just on Tuesday for like 5 hours, and then I'm going to skip out for like a few weeks. Then I'm going to come back. It just
right. It doesn't work very well. Yeah.
And then here was a great opportunity for people to use the car that they already had,
but also to do something else, right? And the problem that this is a little deep, but if you look at what our economy has been like in the past 10 to 20 years, the average person is going to have at least 5 careers, not 5 jobs. 5 careers. Look at the jobs that are around today, right? 20 years ago, at least a third of those jobs literally didn't exist. They didn't exist. That's going to happen again in 20 more years. Another 1/3 of the jobs aren't going to exist anymore. How are you going to change? How are you going to shift? How are you going to learn the new job without making any money, right? If I want to hire you to do this new cool job that just starts to exist, I can't pay you a lot of money. It's new. But you can Uber until you're awesome at it, and then we all make money or whatever. You can gig economy, whatever that gig is. I made up Uber, but whatever that thing might be. I completely agree.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing too, where it's almost like contemporary people sort of superimpose this idyllic idea from years back, onto new innovations, new jobs, and all that. I made a joke a while back. It's like, hey, 60 years ago, a man could buy a house and raise a family on an Uber salary, and it's like the obvious joke is, well, Uber didn't exist back then.
Right, exactly.
It was a different time. And I don't know if it's sort of a closed-mindedness, sort of people having blinders on and not seeing just the opportunity there,
No, I agree. And there's a joke he's asking, he's asking, is this the documentary? Is this the doc right here? This isn't the doc, is it?
No, Joe, this is not the doc. You could actually the main title is called Mobster Bernie Bros. It's the Irishman parody.
Bernie Bros. There we go.
So the idea for this came from a friend of mine and a longtime collaborator, Boris Hyken, who's another great comedian. We were going back and forth over text, just like just bullshitting and coming up with ideas, and we came with this idea like, oh man, there's like Bernie's been talking so much about the unions, and the Irishman just came out. It's like, what if the Irishmen were Bernie Bros?
Right.
Like, what would that look like? And just kind of taking that idea and bringing it together, and then really staying true to elements of the Irishman itself. Sure. The number one thing being its length. This is probably one of our longest sketches.
No, you didn't go 4 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
You didn't do that.
4 days and blah blah blah.
Yeah, exactly.
For those viewers of yours who are really looking for an amazing fight scene, we recreate the one of the fight scenes from the Irishman.
There we go. I love it. So let's go a little further.
What's wrong with you, mother?
Self-driving car
a couple of years ago. I even tried to warn the bloggers.
I don't know. I'm thinking about
going. So if we want to pause here. So this whole next scene is one of the union men trying to organize the writers at BuzzFeed. So it's a long scene. I don't know if you.
So that's fine. No worries. I'll bail out of it. But the concept here that I think you're trying to get at is we're making the Bernie Bros like mobsters, right? Like they're forcing you to do everything that you may or may not want to do, and that's kind of what the Bernie Bros wind up becoming. Even if it's not obvious, they wind up becoming that way. If that makes any sense.
Well, I think also so many times people just think of history as good versus evil.
Yep.
And that there's no nuance. And
Yep.
and I happen to be attracted to nuance,
Mhm.
So, something like, historically speaking, when you think about the minimum wage,
Yep.
and you're like, hey, you know what, the minimum wage, yeah, man, I can understand, like, people work and they labor, and you want to make sure that they get paid, enough to sustain themselves. And then you look at the history and you're like, well, it was also a way to keep Black people from taking
Absolutely.
jobs.
Yes.
It was a way to screw over immigrants who just came over. So sometimes I think, well, most of the time I think it's really important to look at the roots of these things, and obviously the outcomes that come of it. So with the Union Men, with the Irishman, the movie, it obviously shows the relationship between organized labor and organized crime.
Sure. Yes.
And it's an undeniable thing. I mean, there's a reason why Jimmy Hoffa is basically a meme that has been around for so long. But I think within that there's a good opportunity to for jokes, but also to have more of a conversation too. And I think one of the commenters said something about using comedy as a way to have discussion.
Well, Eric brings up a point. He's saying Bernie is out. Who cares? It's a valid question. My gut is, well, Bernie's out. That's true, Eric. I agree. He's out. His ideas aren't out. His ideas
Correct.
are still here, right? Am I wrong with this, Lou?
No, his ideas are there. His supporters are there. I attended both the RNC and the DNC back in 2016. I got to cover them for We the Internet. And at the RNC, it was in Cleveland. It was my first time in Cleveland. It was a really fun time. A lot of people, out partying, and it felt jovial. Even though there were a lot of establishment Republicans who didn't want Trump, they came around and was like, all right, this is our guy. The DNC in Philly, though, that was not the case.
Really?
I was really surprised and sometimes a little scared at just how divided the Democratic Party was between Hillary and Bernie. And you had Bernie supporters who absolutely hated Hillary.
Yeah.
And made it a point where
if you look at the data, a lot of Bernie bros, after the Democrats screwed Bernie over, a big chunk of them went to Trump because they felt anybody but Hillary, right? They didn't really like Trump or hate Trump. They just wanted anybody but Hillary. So they said, fine, I guess we'll go to Trump because it's not Hillary. I think a lot of people did that. Yeah. And I think one of the appeals of Bernie has been how sort of anti-establishment he has been. He's only I kind of relatively recently become a Democrat. I mean, he was an independent, and he's still not a Democrat.
Oh, sure, yeah.
No, he's literally an independent. He's just running in a Democratic primary.
Oh, I didn't even know.
No, he's. If you remember, there was during the debates, I think it was Buttigieg who said it. He goes, "I'd like to have an actual Democrat be our nominee."
Oh, wow.
Because Bloomberg is also independent. People don't realize Bloomberg was a Republican mayor of New York.
Right.
People think, oh, he's a Democrat. Well, now, but he was a Republican. He was a Republican mayor of New York, then an independent mayor of New York. He was never a Democrat of New York.
Yeah, was it the first two terms?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yes, and then when he bought the third term, correct.
Right.
Yes, for most people who don't know this, New York City actually has term limits. New York State doesn't. You can be the governor forever in New York State, but in New York City you get 2 terms unless your last name's Bloomberg, in which case you buy a third, and no one says a word.
It was like a Latin American strongman move.
It literally was. No one said a word. He literally broke the law. Bought a third term, and everyone went, nah, whatever. Right. It's fine. Well, he did it in the DNC too. If you remember, when the 2 outsiders in the DNC, right, and during the campaign, 2 outsiders were Yang and Gabbard. And when Yang and Gabbard said, hey, will you please change the rules to the debate stage so that we can get in the debate stage? The Democratic Party said, no, but we're not changing the rules. Then in comes Bloomberg. Change the rules. Okay, boom, he's in. If you remember, they had a amount of donors you had to have, a certain amount of donors to get in the debate stage. Well, Bloomberg had none. He was writing his own check.
He had one very
That's
big
correct.
donor.
Sorry. He had one huge donor. That's all he had. He had one big donor, right? And the Democratic Party said, we were kidding. We'll change. So I think that happens often. But to your point that I've gone way off topic of is I think that Bloomberg and Bernie, neither still to this day are Democrats. Both are independents.
Mm-hmm.
They were just running on the Democratic ticket.
Yeah, and I think while Bernie's out of the race, like you said before, his ideas are still out there, and his supporters are still out there. And I do not know what the future holds for his supporters, which way it's going to go, especially with the pandemic. Who knows if the DNC or the RNC even happens, what is the election going to look like? I mean, if we're still sort of doing some version of the lockdown, I don't know.
Who knows, right? Are we doing? Everyone's getting mad about the mail-in ballots or not mail-in ballots, all those things. Absolutely, I don't know. I don't know. It's up in the air. That makes any sense? It's still up in the air. So yes, there is a something. Thank you for bringing this up. Sweden's Lessons for America is a great watch. I'm pretty sure that's on Amazon Prime, or that might be Netflix, but I think it's Amazon Prime. It's similar to what you did, Lou, except probably funnier. I'm kidding.
Much better. Well, is this the one? Well, is this the one with is Johan Norberg in that one?
He's in both of them. Yes,
I think this is. Yeah, I think Sweden's Lessons for America is Johan's. That's his joint. Like that's his full. His full feature. Yeah, he's basically the go-to guy anytime something about Sweden comes up. He and I talked about it. He's like, like people are still asking me.
Yes, all the time. Yes,
yeah,
all the time. All right, speaking about this, I'm talking about presidential election. You did one more piece. I guess I'm doing a lot of cool stuff from you today. So thank you for having it all.
The less work I have to do.
There we go. There was one video you did about a man waking up from a coma, right? He's been in a coma for like 10 years or something like that. And now he has to hear all the good and bad news of what's happened when he's waking from this coma. So let me see if I can share this if I can.
Doctor, he's waking up.
Mike, can you hear me? Can you speak?
Who are you?
It's a miracle.
Where am I?
Try to relax, Mike. You've been in an accident. Can you remember what year it is?
2009?
Do you know who the president is?
Barack Obama. Where are my kids? My kids were in the car with me.
He doesn't know.
What don't I know? Where are my children?
Mike, calm down. You're still very weak from the coma.
Coma?
We have to tell him.
Are you sure, Doctor?
He has to know.
What are you doing? What is that?
Mike, this is going to be hard. You've been in a coma for nearly a decade. Now that you're awake, you're going to have to confront some harsh realities.
Oh, no.
The first one is this.
Wait, what am I looking at?
Donald Trump is president.
It's insane, isn't it? The guy from Celebrity Apprentice. He's our president now.
Well, this is funny. There are people who actually think this is the most important thing in life. That if they were away for 10 years, the number one thing would be that Donald Trump is president. That's the number one thing. The guy's asking about, where are my kids, right? What happened? I was in an accident. And they're like, who cares about your kids? Look at this. This is far more important.
Actually, this is a reminder. There I am playing a character who's in a coma for 10 years, and my beard looks worse on my face now than it did then. I got to work on this, Larry.
You probably should care about your personal hygiene a little bit more. I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
But then again, look, we're all stuck inside. We can't get anything professional anymore. So I don't know. I'm gonna start wearing a do-rag if I keep this going on. I'm gonna have an afro or something. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do.
I can do a little bit of a man bun.
Oh yeah, but that's not a good thing. See, that's the problem. Well, I know you can.
Just give me this, Larry.
Doesn't mean you should. Is all I'm saying. Doesn't mean you should. That's what doesn't mean you should. So yeah, but I mean, the reality of it is, you know, people are taking this as the number one thing. And what I guess drives me crazy is, from a philosophical point of view, from a human point of view, the president shouldn't mean that much, right? It shouldn't. We should be far more concerned with what our local communities and our mayors and our governors and what they're doing. We should be more concerned about that. But there's a problem here that I think goes deeper. And maybe I'm going too deep than you were trying to go, right? Sometimes somebody reads a book and they see deeper than what the actual author thought.
Go deep, baby.
So I may be thinking deep here. But anyway, all I'm saying here is this is a bigger piece, because so many people who are broken internally, it's so much easier to look outside and attack and blame and want to fix everybody else and not want to fix themselves. And I think that happens even in politics, right? Locally, everything's a disaster. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blame the president. It's the president's fault for this, the president's fault for that. I think that happens often. I think it's a big problem. It is a big problem that we should be trying to fix. Am I wrong?
No, I totally hear you. And I think one of the things that I always try to do as a reminder, you know, doing comedy, you're supposedly holding up a mirror to the world, you know, and I think it's really important to remember to turn that mirror around and look at yourself and be like, whoa, okay, I got to take care of some of the stuff. I mean, look at it now. You and I were both in New York, right? And, you know, regardless of, in a way, like thinking locally, I'm like, how did our local politicians handle this whole mess?
Yes.
You know, I mean, I remember my brother is a teacher in public school. He teaches high school, and you know, the days leading up, you know, to the weekend, to one of the weekends, I'm like, are they closing the schools? Like, what's going on? Why are these schools open? You know, and yeah, on that local level, it's sort of you know, there's only so much you could pass the buck before people, you know, start calling you out for it.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's something else we can think about here too, right? I find so many people who are physically in their own world, either, you know, ill or unhappy or angry, or their marriage is failing, or their relationships are failing, or their job sucks, or they hate it. And they won't fix that at all. They'll take no responsibility to repair that. But man, when there's a rally, they are out there yelling and screaming at the rally about what they got to go do and whatever. I'm saying to myself, dude, your marriage is failing. Your job sucks. Your kids are terrible because you don't talk to them. And you're out here on a weekend yelling about something that doesn't even affect you.
Right.
What's wrong with you? Fix your home, man.
Well, in my mind, I'm just imagining a guy whose wife left him and he blames George Soros. You know,
yes, exactly.
My wife, that's that George Soros money.
Yes. If it wasn't for Soros, I'd still have a marriage. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, come on. And yes.
Well, you
absolutely.
know, and it's something where, you know, my wife and I, because we were planning on having our the birth of our son, you know, at some point in March. By the way. Thank you so much. Yeah, our son was born on March 26th, and we were told anyway that, like, hey, for the first 2 weeks or like a month, you're basically going to be in quarantine, right? So in a way, you know, these two events, you know, came together. But you know, one thing that we've discovered being with each other is that we really love each other. And we really love being together, and we can be together in a 1-bedroom apartment with a newborn, and things are working out because we're taking care of each other. We're determining what's the most important stuff that we should be thinking about, and all that. And it's really given us time to grow together. And I hope, obviously, the stuff that's happening on the outside of our little bubble gets better. But I'm really thinking about just how some people who don't have that are holding up now, and how are they gonna hold up?
No, I agree completely. You've heard me say more than once, if you guys have been watching, I talk about the idea of social distancing is a terrible word. It's not social distancing, it's physical distancing, right? I don't want to socially distance myself from anybody. The reverse. I mean, there are people now sitting in their homes that, oh my God, they're the kind of person that wants to go out every day and go do things and meet people. And if you're a cave dweller, then it doesn't matter. But if you're not, my God, this is torture for you. And what if you've lost your job? Or what if you don't know if you're going to lose your job? Or what if you don't know if your friends are going to lose their job? I mean, the amount of despair and depression and fear that's got to be striking the hearts of a lot of Americans. I completely agree. And what happens if your marriage was already on the rocks?
Oh, yeah.
What if your marriage was already on the rocks and now you're sitting there with your husband or your wife, your spouse, and he's like, well, what about your job? And she's like, well, what about your job? You were always a loser. And boom, everything's exploding now.
Yeah.
This is going to be really harsh for us. It's going to be very hard. I completely agree. I'm glad you're doing well. Hopefully that will last. Who knows?
We're taking bets. If anybody wants to play some bets on the Sharpe Way Stew.
I got you at 2 weeks max. That's what I got you at, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. We'll see.
But one thing, just sort of like hearkening back to, sort of the gig economy and technology. Thank God for FaceTime. Thank God for programs like this one that we're using, programs like Zoom, because man, like neither set of grandparents have met our child, like have been able to hold our child, which is a very weird thing that we're basically doing this alone, because normally you would have friends and family over spending time cooking for you and stuff like that, but it's just the three of us. And man, does it just bring so much joy to our parents to see our little guy.
Absolutely.
And actually, it's really nice, to have a child now, because it really does make other people happy. I think people like, so many people have said like, oh man, finally some good news.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And it's just that simple thing.
Yep.
A child was born and they like the dad, or they like the mom, and it's like, cool. All right, we're
like the mom.
We're happy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, my wife's the best.
Exactly. There we go.
Much better than I.
All right, let me grab a couple more. Let's keep a little further.
Sure.
Yeah, that's weird, but what about my children? Johnny, Melanie.
This isn't a joke, Mike. This is a real headline.
Why are you showing me this?
Can your 2009 mind even handle this?
Stop it.
10 years ago, could you have imagined America would come to this?
He served fast food in the White House, Mike.
Fast food!
I don't give a shit.
That's the part I love of this entire thing. I love the fact you just yelled, I don't give a shit. I love that, because again, not that we shouldn't. I don't want to completely discount the value of protocol, the value of ceremony. Humans like that. Humans love ceremony. They love protocol. It's a part of who we are. I get that. I don't want to discount that. But at the same time, it isn't the end of the world, right? It isn't the end of the world.
Yeah. And it's something that I learned with doing this one too. Boris Heiken, who I brought up, he and another writer named Max had this idea, and it took us a while to get the script to where it was that we shot it. But it was one of these ideas that I can't think of really another, at least mainstream comedy show doing.
Yeah.
I can't really think of one. I can't think of one that would come to mind that they would be willing to approach this topic from that angle. And if you look in the comments section on that video, it shows, because how many people, would comment and basically say, but he is a monster and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's like, well, if this was a real thing, if this character was real and he just awoke from a coma and he just lost his family in 10 years of his life, you think he would give a shit?
Yes.
And it's funny too. It's sort of like comedy has become a litmus test for a lot of people.
Yeah.
To a point, it's almost like if you can laugh at something, even if you might disagree with the premise, then I think you're the type of person I can hang with.
Well, yeah, this is a very important point, right? The issue, and this is libertarian in many ways, right? Libertarians don't have to agree with who you are or what you're doing or any of that stuff. They just have to go, that's you, fine, don't push it on me. I mean, that's really what it is, right? I mean, I think you saw it when I was running for office. I support the Second Amendment. I don't own a firearm. I support the vaping industry. I don't vape. I supported father's rights. I didn't go through the system, right? All these things. I didn't go through any of them, but I support them. If you want to vape, you should be able to vape. If you want to drink, or I supported legalization of cannabis. I don't smoke weed, right? None of those things. It's not my thing. But I don't have to think it's a good idea, bad idea, agree with it, not agree with it, whatever case may be. If I say it's okay, I think comedy is the same, and I think people don't do that, right? Mm-hmm. There's an idea that says, you can't joke about that.
Right.
Boy, does that make me angry. And the reason I don't like that is, it isn't that you can't joke about that. I think intent matters. And I think we've lost that. And why does that matter? Because if I say something that offends you, and I didn't intend to, the social consequences shouldn't be as harsh as if I intended to offend you, right? Mm-hmm. My view on life may offend you. Am I going, Lou Perez, let me say this so I can offend you? That's a jerk move, and social pressure should be harsher on me. But I'm just saying something you have to be offended by. Why are we attacking me? And people go, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're offended. That's all that matters. And my point is, throughout human history, intent has mattered. And I'll give you the harshest piece. In our criminal justice system, which I hate, but I will tell you about it in general, there's a difference between murder and manslaughter. There's a difference between murder 1, 2, and 3. And what is the difference? Intent. That's the difference. In human culture, the worst thing you can do is plan to kill someone on purpose and then go and kill them. That is basically murder 1. That's not 100%, but it's basically what it is, right? I had intent, that person, and I did it. That's the worst. If I hit someone with a car and kill them by mistake, that's still a crime. This goes back to what you were talking about with nuance, right? Mm-hmm. There's a nuance. It's simply not as bad as if I said, I want to kill that person and did it. There's a difference. And I think when we begin to lose the nuance of intent, it crushes our culture, it crushes our society. And we do it individually. I know there are people in your life, Lou, that if they insulted you in a certain way, there are people in your life that you would take it and laugh at it and know they were teasing you and there'd be no offense whatsoever. But the same thing being said by a different person, you're really angry.
Sure.
Because the intent is the issue.
Sure. And you know what I think too, that there's some, like I said before, the idea of people being able to tell when something is a joke.
Yes.
That so much of this, people think like, well, if you, if you support someone else's right to do something, then you must be 100% for that, or you would do it yourself. And, I bet, you and I have probably met, I've met so many Christian libertarians, Christian anarchists,
sure,
right? Who, have a very strong moral conviction against a lot of, things of vices.
Yes.
And they would totally confuse anyone they speak to, where it's like, well, no, I'm against sex work and prostitution, but I don't think that the state should, should come down on it.
Absolutely.
And I think some of those discussions are some of the best ones to have. Yeah. Well,
the reality of it is, anytime you try to force people to not do something, what you wind up doing, sadly, almost always, is, believe it or not, punishing poor women. This is going to sound odd, but it doesn't really matter the prohibition. Once you have a prohibition, you punish poor women. Why do you punish poor women? Because if it's black market, there's violence. If there's violence, men tend to be in charge because men are really good at organized violence. It's one of our skill sets. So once we start having organized violence, what winds up happening? Women start becoming second-class citizens in that environment. Black markets pop up. Women are punished. You wind up punishing poor women. Why not wealthy women? Because wealthy women have enough money to leave the area, to not use the black market, to hire thugs, to insert things of that sort. So we always want to punishing poor women, but most people don't see that. And I've brought this up before. I don't want to punish poor women. And one of them, absolutely it was my mom. My mom was a poor woman. I don't want to punish poor women. I absolutely don't want prohibition. So even though go ahead, I'm sorry.
We're going to have a very weird the next episode, I'm gonna have to, be in the camp for punishing poor women. So.
Well, I thought you were. I thought it was going to be a debate about us who wants to punish them more. Is what I thought.
I Google punish poor women every day.
There we go. Exactly.
See what new
How
video
work best. Exactly right. So, all right. Let me pop us in for a little bit longer. Get a couple of pieces here.
The president could be Kanye West for all I care.
It's actually funny you should mention Kanye West because...
Get that away from me.
Kanye said liberals were bullies, Mike. Bullies!
Where are my children?
Oh my God! Your kids are dead, okay? Jeez.
Oh no.
Yeah, your son died instantly. Your daughter clung to life support for like a month before we removed the feeding tube. Yada, yada, yada. Happens all the time. But Trump being president?
The fact that anyone who watches this can go, but he is a bad guy. Come on.
Right.
Come on. And here's the point. I love it. Even if I think Trump's a horrible president, worst president in the whole wide world, I got it. Your family should matter more.
Well, and I think what a lot of commenters point out, the commenters who take umbrage with the sketch is, they'll say, well, why didn't you say, X, Y, or Z use X, Y, or Z as an example, right? And it's like, well, I guess that's fair, but the reality is that the examples that we're bringing up here are examples that we saw in the media. The media made a big stink about President Trump having fast food.
Yep.
Having Mickey D's or whatever it was, serving it to a bunch of college kids who had just won a championship.
Yep.
The media made that made that distinction. The media talked about made a big stink about Kanye and his meeting with that.
I agree.
So in a way, it's sort of like the media is doing quite a good job sort of sourcing our material for us. Especially if we're going to be commenting on it. It's like, hey, well, look what you guys are spending your time on. I'm a comedian, and I don't like to use that excuse like if I get a fact wrong or something like that. Hey, I'm a comedian. Like, no, if I get something wrong, I'll own up to it.
Sure.
But it's sort of like, hey, I'm not the one at MSNBC or Fox or anything like that choosing which stories to cover.
No. Again, this is a nuanced issue. Because Trump being president is different. That kind of thing hasn't happened before. It's absolutely different. And somebody might think that's good or bad. I get that. But there's something else that Trump is doing is he's breaking protocol, which makes people feel awkward. And I don't have a problem with accepting that people are feeling awkward. I really don't. The problem is we're making it so black and white. This goes back. I'm going to go deep again. I'm sorry. I'm going to take this down deeper. This is going back to the number one issue that I have when it comes to business and now government. And that is the idea of zero tolerance. Zero tolerance makes everything black or white. Once you cross that line, you are evil. That's it. And I don't have a problem with someone saying, I'm unhappy with Trump because he's breaking protocol. I like it when my president does this or does that or does this or that. I like that. That doesn't make him evil. That means he's breaking protocol. And you can still support him or not support him and still accept the fact that he's breaking protocol and you don't like that. And that is absolutely a nuance that we should say. I do like the president having protocol. I do also. Maybe it's the Marine in me. I like the protocol. I prefer him to be more presidential. I prefer him. But I wouldn't vote for him or not vote for him based upon that. And I wouldn't support him or not support him based upon that. But I can openly say, I wish he'd have more protocol. I do. I wish he wouldn't be on Twitter doing the crap he does on Twitter. 100%.
Man, when he was talking about the ratings for the White House press briefings, it's like, oh man,
horrible.
Like, yeah, we're still. I mean, one thing I will say, he never ceases to amaze me. It's always there's always something else, So.
I love that. All right, so but the other piece I want to bring, which is a bit deeper, is the zero tolerance piece. What a zero tolerance piece does is it removes nuance, and our life is nuance. Right? I'll bring it up even with the most controversial piece, and that is the idea of harassment at work, right? Particularly sexual harassment at work. Sexual harassment at work is a real thing. That's not a fantasy made up. It's a real thing. The problem is we've made it to where it's zero tolerance, which means the second you say one thing, now it's the equivalent of you raped somebody. That's not the same thing. Rape is horrible and a crime. Sexual harassment is horrible too. It's not rape. There are separate issues. There are nuance in the two. And the problem is once you act as if harassment is rape, you've literally hurt the woman or the man, but usually the woman who's actually been raped. Because they're not the same. Both are bad. Both should have consequences, but they're different. And that's the part that drives me absolutely insane. And I think it happens here too. It's Trump is not what I wanted to be, therefore he's evil. Obama wasn't what I wanted to be, therefore he's evil. And that's it. You cross one line and it's black and white. Drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and I think that example is probably a good example of overcorrection.
Yes,
and trying to make up for for years of really wicked men getting away with stuff. One of the commenters brought up another video that I did called "Stop Making Me Defend Donald Trump," where I play a guy who voted for Hillary, who he basically spends his days just trying to say like, hey, I don't like Donald Trump. I can't stand the guy, but what you're saying about him isn't actually true. And it was a very, and it was a similar thing that happened, under the Obama administration too.
100%.
Where I would read criticism of Obama, and I'm like, why are you guys inventing this bullshit? Like, talk about Libya. Like, it's right there, man. Talk about.
No. Obama and Trump both have plenty of things you can talk about they've done wrong. Yeah. Plenty of them. You don't have to make them up.
Right.
I mean, both of them bombed a whole lot of countries, right? For absolutely no reason. Right there. They all maintain wars. None of them took cannabis off the Schedule 1, right? You can yell at them all day about these things. They all put tons of people in prison and jail. All of them. Tons of stuff to yell about. I completely agree. But I'm going to bring up this one question. It brings up prostitution gives wealth to female characters. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. If prostitution is legal, I think that's accurate. The way it is now, I don't think that's so accurate. Most women who are in sex work or black market sex, I'll say that, black market sex, particularly prostitution sex work. Sex work is many things. It's escorts. It's all types of things. But in that world, a lot of times it's their pimp or their manager or their boss or their boyfriend or whatever you want to call that person who makes most of the money. If it's legalized, then it changes, right? And now in the sex work industry, if you're doing things like your camming or that kind of thing, you can make some money as a woman. You can be empowered. But if you're actually on the street, odds are you're not making much money. And the way out of that is almost always death or prison. That's probably the only two ways you get out of that. So I think it's true, but not 100% true. A
great book I read, it was by Thaddeus Russell. It's called A Renegade History of the United States. And it's really about how prostitutes and drunkards and basically the pariahs of society really had such a big impact on what the United States is and where and how it came about. In particular, when it comes to prostitution, some of the landowners and the business women and the wealthy women were madams.
Oh yes.
And regular married women would be walking on the streets and seeing these working girls in these beautiful dresses and made up and all that, and cut to how many years later where red lipstick used to be this very risque thing that only harlots wore. Of course. And then you have first ladies of the United States wearing it. So it's really interesting how that that evolution took place.
So look, before we wrap it up, is there anything you want to chat about? Something you want to pick up before we wrap this up?
No, I think other than I think like you said before, just the importance of relationships and taking care of your family and maintaining those bonds, especially during these times. I think that's super important. Absolutely. And I think the best way for people to bond is over some We the Internet TV content where they can check it out on YouTube and Facebook, and also make sure you're supporting Larry Sharpe in every way you can. So
absolutely. If you guys want to support me, look, if you've got the cash, head on over to Patreon. If you're in a good spot, patreon.com/Sharpeway. Throw 10, 20 bucks my way so I can keep this going. This isn't free. It takes up my time and energy, and I got to pay for all these goodies, all these apps and stuff, and people help me out. If you're not in that spot, I know many of you aren't in that spot. I get it. No worries. I need you to go to every single one of my social media things and click like and click subscribe. It matters. I bug you every time, but you still don't do it, damn you. So go out there and do it. Click subscribe, click like, click follow. It's free. It helps me out. Please go do it. Guys, thank you so much. Lou, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you, guys.
All righty. Have a good one, guys.